Hey, everybody, this is Pastor Ron, uh, signing on. It's been, pretty close to a month since I posted my last video. Um, Still, for me, well, first of all, I pray each of you are doing well and that I am grateful that you've been following this journey. I actually got instant message from someone asking about another video. And I think one of the things that I've been dealing with, I think this video is going to be a little bit longer than my previous ones. Some of the things I think I've been dealing with is the feeling that a lot of you have felt probably over your life when you find yourself in a situation, and this is what this whole video log has been about. Powering through and getting past these roadblocks and reclaiming our victory and taking back what Satan has stole from us. But there are those times you go through life, and I'm speaking for myself, that you feel that you're alone. You wonder what it is that's going on. Why is it happening? And as much as you try to encourage other people and you try to encourage yourself, and as much as you pray and continue to read the Bible, and you see things are not happening, it does have a mental effect on us. It affects us in a way that it may not make us best at what we're called to do. And I believe that I've been dealing with that for the last month, just feeling why am I still in this situation. Um, Several months ago at my church, before I moved back to California, we had we no, we had moved back. I was here, so it's been within the last 6 months. And during the service, I was preaching from the book of Joshua, chapter 4. It was the first few verses. I think it was in the first 10 verses or so. And it had to do with when the children of Israel, Moses had already gone. He had been taken up by the Lord. And now the children of Israel had to cross the river Jordan. And they were now another water crossing, another barrier. And God made a way for them to get to the other side of the Jordan. And along the way, Joshua told the people that one man from each tribe is to take up a stone to build an altar on the other side, and so that it would be a reminder for them of how good God was. I think I even talked about this in a previous video. And we did this at our church symbolically. We had a jar filled with, not a jar, like a big bowl filled with water. We had little river stones like these placed inside the bowl, and everybody was handed a slip of paper to write down whether it was sin or issues that they were dealing with. And one by one, we came, and it was paper that dissolved in water, and you put it in the water and you watch the paper dissolve, and you take the river stone out of the dish, and you keep it and display it in a prominent place in your house, or some place that where people may see it, or even if it's just for you to be a reminder. And to remind you of how good God is and the things that God has done to get us to where we need to be. And so a few months ago, since we've been here in California, my wife and I have still looking for work. I went to the doctor for my physical, and committed to the doctor that I was going to lose weight. Told her that by the time my next physical, by the time of my next follow-up visit, that I would be down 20 pounds. And I think in this period of time since the doctor's visit to this point in time, I've probably gained 15 instead of losing 20. So I owe her at least 35 pounds. And part of this issue of why that has happened, I believe, is because of this mental fog that I've been in. That every day when I see this stone and remember how God has delivered me, it almost didn't matter, because I just, instead of doing, there are times at periods like this where we can be more productive and you can do more things. I could have been walking every day. I could have been doing push-ups and sit-ups every day. So if you see me glistening, it's because finally today I just decided, when I looked in the mirror and I saw the face of Ronald Thomas, and I remembered who I was. It wasn't just about this stone. It's just remembering who I was. And I've never been a kind of person who ever quit from anything. If anything, when the pressure turned up, that was when I was at my best. But now all of a sudden I'm forgetting who I am. I forgot who I belong to. I forgot what my mission was. And I sat around this house and just kind of wallowed in my own misery. And I got myself up, put on some workout clothes and changed into it. And I went outside and did a workout to get myself back together. It made me remember in 1 Samuel 30, when David was out for battle with his men, and when he came back, the camp was raided, and all of his men were so upset that they wept and they cried, and they were so upset because they were doing God's work and they were fighting for David, and that they wanted to stone David. And if you read that in the first few verses of 1 Samuel 30, it said that David went to the Lord and questioned, what this was happening. And it finally said that David encouraged himself. He had to remember everything that I remembered today. It reminds me of a meme I saw on social media that it was a prayer. It said that sometimes when you ask God to move the mountain, he gives you a shovel. We seem to forget that we have a role in how we're supposed to proceed with receiving our blessing, that we forget that sometimes we actually have to go out and do some work. We just can't sit back and just expect God to do everything. God can do these things, but there are times that we have to do things. It's the same thing as parents that we do for our children. We can give them everything they ask, but the thing is, we want them to work for certain things. We want them to have an appreciation for the things that we give them. And if God just does everything for us, what kind of appreciation would you have for that God? We've seen this time and time again in the Bible, that God delivers the people. He acts on their behalf in a supernatural way, and they turn their back on him. He delivers them from something and they turn their back on him. It's just been this back and forth. And if you look back over your life and you think about your own existence and what you've done, you probably can think about the things that you've seen God move in your life, but then you slip back into your old ways. It's always God doing something and you taking it for granted. You're going to slip and slide because you know God is going to bail you out. We deal with that with as parents as we try to balance what does it mean to love our kids and protect our children, but at the same time to have them learn a lesson. How do you get to that place that balance that love with giving them what they deserve, but at the same time showing mercy? God shows us mercy because he saved us from eternal damnation, but there are still consequences for our actions. And in some situations, we don't have any consequences. This is just life that has happened. But even when life has happened, even when we've been working for God, we got to remember who we are. And for me today, I remembered the things that I've gone through in my life, that I pushed through. It wasn't just this river stone that reminded me of what God has done for me. It was also a reminder of how God and I work together, that God guiding my life and me acting on the guidance that God has led me, the path that he put me on, to continue to walk down that path. I could sit up here in this house. You can't see my couch, but my couch right over there. I could sit over there on that couch and continue to go wallow in my disappointment of my situation. Just like David, his men wanted to stone him and he wanted to kill him. He could have wallowed in that situation, but it said David encouraged himself. He strengthened himself, is actually in the New King James translation. It said he strengthened himself in the Lord. And today I strengthened myself in the Lord because I remembered who I am. See, the thing I think that pushed me is that I had an interview today. And I think the interview probably would have gone in my favor, but it would have required me to move to Fresno. Now, keep in mind, I'm from Los Angeles, moved to Texas with my job, moved back to Los Angeles because of another job. And then that company has run out of cash, a startup. And now I believe God, but I believe God led me back here to California, back to Southern California specifically. And then I interviewed for a job, and it's where you have to move to Fresno. I don't really believe God has pulled me from Texas to Los Angeles to send me to Fresno. I believe my destiny is here. But the point of the matter being is that when I got the call that I was going to be interviewed for this job, and this job looked promising, only to have it snatched away, it made me feel bad. But when I looked in the mirror today and remembered who I am and what I've been about, I had to strengthen myself in the Lord and get up off of that couch, put on my gym shorts, put on my athletic shirt and my sneakers, and get out there in those streets and do what is necessary to get this body back in shape. What good am I? Fat and dead. That's just the reality. I had to strengthen myself in the Lord. So I pray for each and every one of you that if you watch this and you've been following, that you get to a place where you are. Maybe you're not there. Maybe you've been there. But to remember to trust God in all situations, even when it looks hopeless. Set yourself up an altar to remind yourself, and look in the mirror. Not just the mirror you have on the wall, but look at yourself through the mirror of the gospel of Jesus Christ and see where you are. To remember who you are, and then strengthen yourself in the Lord. Pastor Ron signing off. I won't take this long again, but I'm glad you're with me. I need your prayers. And let's pray for each other, because there are people who are out there suffering. I know someone who is dealing with their daughter got pulled out of college a few months before the end of the year because of a lupus flare-up. I have a friend of mine who is dealing with potential meningitis, not knowing, out of work, going to be out of commission for quite some time. I have another friend of mine that lost his mother recently. There are some people dealing with some very real stuff. You might be dealing with some very real stuff, but I'm telling you, with all my heart and being, believe and trust in the Lord, and if necessary, strengthen yourself in the Lord. It's Pastor Ron signing off, and as always, like I tell you every time, I love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. Peace.